welcome to the program Business Point on Global Television. I am Samuel Odi. Many thanks for joining us on today's edition of the program. As we tend to look at all Nigerian inflation rate, which has been released by the National Bureau of Statistics, and also we'll be looking at the forecast for the obvious inflation rate, which a whole lot of individuals have mentioned that it's going to be around 27 to 30% based on the rebasing of the GDP and the consumer price index that was projected by the NBS. But before we get into all of those conversations, we'll also talk about Nigerian current increment on stability that we've been witnessing within the dollar and naira. So, but before we get to all those conversations, let's have a conversation around Nigeria's inflation as expected to drop. Yes, it's expected to drop, but our current reality shows that Nigerian inflation of January 2025 is at 34.2% from 34.80% that we witnessed within the month of December 2024. So now it's looking as if the Nigerian inflation is getting better, and also curbing, looking at current initiatives that has been introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria and all the financial sectors. So now let me bring you up to speed. The Nigerian inflation is expected to drop, but yet still at 34.2% in the month of January 2024. Earlier this year, the National Bureau of Statistics announced that the plans of rebasing both the consumer price index and the gross domestic product, sparking significant discussions about the potential impact of those adjustments. Inflation rates to decline between 27% to 30% in the year 2025 due to rebasing. Economic analysts, I beg your pardon, and industrial analysts anticipate the Nigerian's inflation rate will moderate between 27% to 30% by the end of the year 2025, mainly due to the planned rebasing of the consumer price index and other macroeconomic factors. However, the projection remains significantly higher than 15.75% inflation rate assumption in the year 2025 budget. Despite expectation of gradual decline, some experts expect that inflationary pressures will persist in the first half of 2025, given already high cost of goods and services. Using the current CPI, analysts project inflation to hover around 30.5% year on year, with a potential decline throughout the year, reaching approximately 27.1% by December 2025. This anticipated decline is attributed largely to the rebased effect given the already high price, as well as factors such as improved exchange rate stability, increased agricultural output leading to better food supply, and normalizing of petrol price. The CPI is expected to be rebased, however, so we could see significant reduction and reduced inflation throughout the year if it is implemented in January. We could also see inflation in the 10s or lower between the 20s at the end of the year. So looking at all of this now, globally, basically, the major cause of inflation has been food due to the COVID-19 that struck within the year 2019 and 2020. A whole lot of economists have been struggling basically to find its fitting and also see how economies actually, and then countries' GDP is actually going to grow. So Nigerian economy is not left out, given the fact that we are part of the universe, obviously. So looking at all of these angles now, what can be able to help stabilize this economy? This NBS and the Central Bank of Nigeria and every other financial sector looked into it, and then researches were made, and looking at the projection for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his 2025 budget of curbing on inflation to 15%, policymakers and economists have argued differently that there is no way, looking at the current situation of Nigerian economy and GDP, for us to be able to witness around 15% projection or reduction of inflation as projected by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's budget for 2025. That's on the other hand. Then on the other hand, we're seeing that individuals and policy experts are commenting that come to December 2025, the inflation measures of Nigeria is currently going to still be, despite the rebasing, still going to be in a double-digit number, which is going to remain at 27% or 30%. So we're going to see what's going to happen as the year unfolds. But when we expect more of this inflation to drop down, is expected to see it from the second quarter of the year. That is, looking at it now, we're expecting in the next 6 months or in the next couple of months for us to see that Nigerian inflation is going to start coming down to, to a normal sense. But before we could be able to achieve this now, there are some things that need to be put in place. Now, the cost of food in the market is high, and then we've seen fluctuation in the price of oil. That's talking about the PMS now. We've seen different statistics and also prices of all of these items. So all of this now facilitates the rise of inflation, because at the end of the day, the market woman is also going to complain that fuel is expensive, cost of transportation is on a high. That's why she is selling her vegetables and every other food items on a high rate. So if we can settle the issue within the oil price, I think with those policies being put in place, we will be able to witness a swift reduction of current inflation rate. But moving away from inflation, let's talk about Nigerian Naira, as it's beginning to do so well. If you can all agree with me, from the month of November 2024 up to date, Nigerian Naira has been stabilized within 1,500 Naira. Now let me bring you up to speed with that. Nigerians Naira increased raised to 1,555 Naira in the parallel market. This was as at yesterday's report. So the market officially opened, the parallel market opened today at 1,555 Naira. So there's no need for you to hoard that dollar that you have in your purse. The Nigerian Naira yesterday appreciated to 1,555 Naira per dollar in the parallel market from 1,570 Naira per dollar as at last week. Yes. So looking at this now, but the Naira depreciated to 1,512 Naira to a dollar in the Nigerian foreign exchange market. The Central Bank of Nigeria has shown that the indecisive exchange rate for the Naira rose to 1,512 Naira to a dollar from 1,511 Naira per dollar as at last weekend, indicating a $1 depreciated for the Naira. Consequently, the margin between the parallel market and the Nigerian foreign exchange market rates narrowed to 43 Naira per dollar from 59 Naira per dollar as at last weekend. So looking at all of this now, the projection for the year 2025, again, in the budget that has been signed into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the State House, it says that the Naira is meant to stabilize at 1,500 Naira. So this is for the black market and the parallel market. That is a projection for the year. Let me make that clear. But for us to be able to have the Naira stabilized at 1,500 Naira, we are expected to see that the Naira is going to be around 1,200, 1,300 to 1,400 if we are going to expect any certain level of stability at 1,500. So if we don't have all of that, if we don't have the Naira stabilized at 1,300, 1,450 at most, there is no way we would be able to have the Naira stabilized at 1,500 in the parallel market. So those Bureau de Change guys are actually looking forward. And then the Central Bank of Nigeria introduced some policies that is actually helping this facilitator and also helping see the Naira being stabilized at 1,500. So with all of this new initiative coming up, and then the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Yemi Cardoso putting initiatives in place, and also all of these aspects, if they get to be settled, then we would see Naira being stabilized at 1,500 Naira. But you can all agree with me that the Naira has been stabilized around 1,570 Naira from November 2024 up to date. So it hasn't exceeded within this range. So if we are seeing all of those now currently, that means the future looks bright for Nigerian Naira. And the Crude for Naira initiative also that was introduced at the 1st of October 2024 is also impacting this stability that we're seeing. So what does that mean? It's crude oil is an international commodity, so whosoever that is coming into Nigeria to get those products is obviously going to ask for Naira to be able to help him or her purchase the crude. Looking at those angles now, it doesn't mean that the crude price is actually going to be different from what it originally is in the foreign international market, which is currently at $77 to a barrel. Looking at the current policies that Donald Trump is initiating, and also taking his time to be able to find a way how to issue out and then solve out the issues going on between Russia and Ukraine, because it has been said that Russia is funding its war against Ukraine from the profits it's making from profit being generated from crude oil. We'll be going on a quick break, and then when we return back, we'll be having conversations around Nigerian all-share index as it dips yesterday. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Yes, many thanks for staying with us. Now, let's look at all-share index as it dips by 0.11%. Yes, the Nigerian all-share index dipped just yesterday. Now, we are going to facilitate and then look at the reason why that happened. The Nigerian all-share index wrapped up its trading section as of February the 17th, 2025 in the red dip with 116.20 points to close at 107,937.74. This marks a 0.11% decline from the previous day, valued at 108,553.94%. Or rather points. Even as the trading volume increased, the daily trading volume climbed by 6.71%, increasing from 478 billion shares to 510 million, rather 478 million shares to 510 million shares traded the day before. However, the market capitalization slipped to 67.3 trillion naira over 17,095 transactions, down from 67.4 trillion at the day's starting. The market summary shows that the all-share index opened at 100 and starting today at 107,937.74 points. Previously, it opened at 108,053.94 points. The day change showed at minus 0.11%. Year-to-date performance is at plus 4.98%. Volume traded is at 510 million shares, and then the market capitalization remained at 67.3 trillion Nigerian naira. The market outlook: despite the recent decline, the index is currently benefiting from strong buying momentum, maintaining its position at the near 107,000 point level over the past 2 days. So looking at all of this now, we are seeing the stability within the naira is also, affecting positively the Nigerian O-share index, and then is giving investors more momentum and more boost to be able to come and invest and also trade in the Nigerian stock market. So looking at all of those things now, despite the 0.11% dip that we saw, we are saying that the Nigerian O-share index point is actually being leveled at the expected point. So we are not going to frown so much looking at the fact that there's a little bit of a dip of a 0.11%, but we are still frowning because we are expecting the Nigerian O-share index and the stock market to be on a bullish trend all through this month, looking at the momentum of how it started and how we suffered a little bit of dip in the previous month. So looking at all of this now, it just shows a significant rise, and from the projection for today, we are expected to see that the Nigerian O-share index is actually going to, have a bullish trend before the close of business today and then get back to its way. So the projection for today is showing at 109,000 points. So that's what we expected to see before the business wraps up today. So looking at that now, today is another big day for the Monetary Policy Committee, looking at the fact that experts have called for a halt in the current interest hike by the Central Bank of Nigeria's monetary policy team. So today and tomorrow, to be more specific, the 299th MPC meeting of the CBN is scheduled to happen today and tomorrow. Nigeria's current interest rate stands at 27.5%, while the inflation measures rate is at 34.2%. So looking at this now, a whole lot of investors now have, brought out concerns, and also looking at the fact that all of this interest rates needs to be left at this minimal level, given the fact that last year we witnessed that the Monetary Policy Committee team met 3 consecutive times, and then they tend to increase the interest rate, and now it's currently at 27+%. So now looking at the meeting now, the MPC meeting is a crucial event that shapes Nigerian economy outlook, influencing decisions on interest rates, inflation control, and overall macroeconomic stability. A recent report from the Central Bank of Nigeria indicates that Nigeria's economic activities expanded for the second consecutive months, which is actually a good thing, a bullish trend in the economy, which is something very, very good. But the composition purchasing managers index as a PMI of January 2025 is at 50.2% index points, signal at expansion in economy activities for the second straight month. Three sectors, industrial, service, and agricultural, stood out in the report, and then the industry sector improved from a stationary position in December 2024 to an expansionary level in the year January 2025. So we've seen a significant growth in these angles, but now there are concerns. SMEs are complaining that interest rate is on a high side, and what expectations SMEs have, as entrepreneurs are having, they are expected to see that the interest rate is actually going to drop from 27.5% to probably 20% if that is feasible. But these meetings, why all of these meetings tend to happen, we tend to see a whole lot of measures being put in place, initiative being introduced to help Nigerian economy and GDP grow. Basically, that's what most of these meetings are, looking at the financial sector, agricultural sector, and in the industrial sector. This is what these meetings are basically all about. But looking at all of those things now, on the long run, we are expected SMEs are expecting to see that the current interest rate is actually something that is actually going to be looked into, because for any economy to grow, or any GDP of an economy to grow, the SMEs are actually the facilitators and they are the backbone of economic growth. So basically that can't be taken away. So we experts have actually called for a halt, and some have actually called for the inflationary measures to be looked into and policies to be put in place to help curb out inflation, and majorly a halt that has to do with the current inflation, the current interest rate currently that is being imposed, or that has been set aside by the Central Bank of Nigeria. We will be bringing you a report, obviously, from the MPC meetings today and tomorrow. Hopefully, we would have Nigerians and SMEs will have something, a whole lot to smile about in the long run after the meeting. My name is Samuel Odi, and this is how much time will permit us to take on today's edition of Business Point. I'll see you again as we talk more business. You have a great day ahead. Bye for now.